The old tin mining town of Derby in Tasmania's fertile northeast was dying 5 years ago. The region's traditional industries of agriculture and forestry had suffered big hits with the closure of a vegetable processing plant and 2 timber mills.
Derby was a ghost town. We were down to one business and that was run by council, so the Tin Centre Council owned that. And there would be days when the Tin Centre would turn over less than $100 a day in the depths of winter. So Derby was well and truly on its knees.
But 5 years ago, something hiding in plain sight kick-started an extraordinary economic revival. The magic ingredient? Hero Dirt. What is Hero Dirt?
Hero Dirt would be like the equivalent of a powder day for a skier. It's basically when the dirt is just perfect. It's not too dry, it's not too wet. You get really good grip in the turns and everything's just rocking.
Oh, they're absolutely world class, world class. I've ridden quite a few places, Queenstown, Rotorua, over in the States, and these are as good as any of those, if not better.
Mountain biking has experienced a phenomenal rise in popularity in Australia, with over 1 million bikes sold last year. There have never been so many clubs, trails or riders. For some, it's a hobby. For others, an addictive extreme sport.
You've got your XC guys, which are more of a cross-country sort of sport, and then you've got free ride, which is just people out having fun, a bit more jumps and freestyle kind of aspect. You've got downhill racing, which is like hardcore down the mountains racing. There's lots of different aspects of mountain biking, and it's accessible for everyone, from kids right through to old people like me.
It's an adrenaline sport, so it's a bit like surfing, snowboarding, that sort of thing. It's a sport that you go and travel to experience some new places together, usually with other, like-minded friends.
And it involves no lycra, baggy shorts, please. And it involves a craft beer at the end of the day. Come on, it's chilled out.
Riders happily travel in search of top trails. And they spend.
What we're talking is a really high-yielding visitor. They are the tourists that you want. There is no limit to what they will spend.
The trails had only been in 2 years when Derby struck gold last year, hosting the Wimbledon of the sport, the Enduro World Series, the first time the event's ever been held in Australia. The internationals voted the double black diamond Detonate the best trail in the world.
The images that came out of here were just incredible, because you have the world's top riders and the world's top mountain bike photographers here. The recipe is just, for success was huge.
We reached well in excess of 7 or 8 million mountain bikers around the world, just through the media who came to the event and the content they shared through their channels. So that's the type of marketing you can't buy.
Derby's now one of the globe's hottest mountain bike destinations, with more than 30,000 visitors last year. The rebirth of the once prosperous mining town of 3,000 started in 2013, when several mountain bike fans approached the Dorset Council. If you build trails, they said, riders will come. Council General Manager Tim Watson is a mammal, a middle-aged man in lycra. This was a new tribe for him.
Initially I was pretty sceptical because I didn't know a lot about it. I was a road cyclist, but I didn't understand mountain biking. And then I had a closer look at it, and then I realised it was a good thing.
A $2.5 million federal government grant meant council could hire Queenslander Glenn Jacobs, one of the world's top trail designers.
We've got about 85 kilometres of trail. The total project came in just under $3.1 million. So it's a premium quality product, and if you want great trails, you have to spend the money.
A lot of things went right for the Dorset Council. Forestry Tasmania, the land manager at the time, supported having trails in a working forest. There were no bureaucratic blocks.
That's probably the difference between us and other areas of Australia, because typically to find this natural beauty you'd be in national parks or state reserves, and we didn't have that problem.
Designer Glenn Jacobs was given a blank canvas and asked to deliver Flow. It's a mountain biking thing.
It's not having any qualms other than focusing on the trail in front of you that's flowing up and down, that's twisting between trees. And if you lose concentration and your mind wanders, you might end up in the bushes. So it's a really beautiful thing to channel your thoughts and energy into just what's in front of you.
The trails are for the 78 percenters.
They're the families, they're the 50 plussers. There's mountain biking is a really diverse activity, and there's actually a larger volume of people who are out there enjoying it at a more tame pace.
Like South Australian mates Peter South and Malcolm Pearce.
Yeah, Mal's got me covered by about 12 months. He's 70 and I'm 69, so yeah.
You're an inspiration.
Well, he's
Silly,
my,
we've been called.
he's my hero. I want to be like him when I grow up.
Cheers to everybody.
These are fantastic over here. The scenery and the forestry and just the smells and nature and the creeks, and just an awesome place.
What was the degree of difficulty that you tackled today?
That was intermediate tracks, I think they're called. So, and that was about our standard.
Yep.
Anything harder than that, we'd be walking. But that was perfect for us guys. Yeah.
Mike Daly is the editor of Revolution magazine. We caught up with him after he'd spent several days on the trails with a photographer.
I've ridden some of the trails before, but the new ones are another level. They built some trails especially for the EWS race, and those are really good.
It's a good angle from up high. Makes it look super impressive.
The guys who built these trails know what they're doing, and all the trails are amazing.
Righto, crew.
One of the earliest investors in Derby were Buck and Jude Gibson.
Now, who's not loaded on this trailer before?
None of us. Well, 4 of us.
4. Rightio, I'm going to give you the demo because we're going to be doing it a few times.
They run a bike hire business and shuttle riders to and from the trails. They started in a shed in the trailhead car park.
Really gently rest the back wheel in at the slot. Jude would sit there, I'd be running the bus up to the new trail which is called Atlas. So I had one trail which we used to operate on, and that's how we started.
Buck says riders are stunned by the scenery, which ranges from the snowy subalpine to valley forests of man ferns.
And you ride along the plateau, and then all of a sudden you ride down into this really dense, dark myrtle forest. It is really, really stunning up there.
It's like someone spray painted green moss on everything. The trees, the ground, the rocks, underneath the water in the little creek. It's just amazing, and it's the most amazing sound. It's like in a soundproof room. It's just quiet.
It's a special place, yeah. The wilderness out here is just amazing wilderness, and it's just, you know, it's great to showcase it to the world.
Okay, one time he goes over the.
I use my antibody to brake. So I thought that's the way to go.
We all did. At the same place.
Which bit was the most fun, do you think?
The second one. Yeah, and through the river. That was very nice.
So you went for
60% of their customers are from interstate, 6% from overseas. And as with skiing, there are varying degrees of difficulty. The hardest is a double black diamond. There are 2 of them, and they're tough just to walk.
Rightio, so when you take your bikes off, just check over that you've got brakes. If you and I went and had a look at one now, we'd just be shaking our heads going, no, that's just crazy.
Even you?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't dare.
One of the most popular trails is Blue Tier, which conveniently ends at the Welborough pub, which is 20 minutes out of Derby.
Is this your first time doing the Derby trails?
No, it is not. We come here probably once a fortnight. Yeah, we're local, 3 of us, 4, 5 of us.
Rotorua in New Zealand, renowned as one of the best places in the world, and what we've ridden today was every bit as good as that.
And what do you like about mountain biking?
It's a good way to communicate and like meet new people, and it's also fun, bit of adrenaline.
The Worldborough pub was recently bought by a group of old school friends, and they've given it a makeover.
And could you be in a better position right at the end of the trail?
It's perfect, absolutely perfect. Everyone comes for lunch.
So they're either thirsty or hungry or both?
Both.
Yes,
both.
Or need accommodation.
Yep.
The kitchen's gone from serving 40 meals on weekends to flat strap.
Hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah.
On a Saturday and a Sunday lunchtime.
We've already done a few Saturdays of 178 lunches, and the season hasn't really got going yet.
So we could be in trouble. Here we go. Our bookings are increasing all the time, and going forward, we're looking at perhaps putting some demountable cabins in the camping ground, which will allow people to have their own amenities.
A New South Wales couple has bought the Dorset Hotel, one of only 2 pubs in Derby. Locals are ecstatic, as when the reno's done, there'll be more desperately needed beds and a new dining option.
I'm not a huge risk taker normally, apart from mountain biking, but no, we did. I don't think we can go too wrong down here. And once we get the kitchen up and running, they can have a beer, have a meal. All they have to do is walk upstairs, fall into bed, get up in the morning and jump on their bikes again. So, yeah, I think there'll be demand for our accommodation anyway, yeah. So these are our rooms. This is what we're hoping to fill with mountain bikers sometime down the track.
Sean McDonald worked in the mining industry, but wanted a change. He's looking forward to pulling beers and yarning with punters. The McDonalds have a big job ahead of them though, as the pub is stuck in a multicoloured 70s time warp.
Pip, imagine staggering into this room at 2 o'clock in the morning with a skinful after a hard day on the trails.
Oh, I think mountain biking blokes would just love that bedspread and the carpets. That's all going to go?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Good
decision. On the list.
From the cheap and cheerful pub to Tara and Steve Howe's luxurious, light on the landscape pods. Many told the young couple they were crazy.
A big investment.
Yeah, it is. It is a big investment.
Especially for people who aren't big end of town investors. We're youngsters who've taken a big risk for something we believe in.
But the high-end mountain biking, in particular in Australia, is something that hasn't been tapped into just yet. So we saw there was a gap in the market.
They do everything for their customers. Transport to and from Derby, a bike, beds, trail guides, gourmet local food and wine, and of course, craft beer. There is no television.
It's about taking 3 days to look in and look at yourself and challenge yourself on the bike, and then have those luxuries of someone making you beautiful Tasmanian dinner and just switch off. Yeah.
The pods are targeted at the older demographic.
The people who want to have that soft and adventure in the same experience. So yeah, the people who maybe aren't so confident or want to have someone to guide you down the trails, that's who we're looking for, yeah.
Stage 2 is being planned on new trails which will eventually link Derby to St Helens on the east coast.
The benefit to Tasmania, it's not just in this northeast corner, but spreading right across the state. And our estimate is the economic impact on Dorset is about 15 to 18 million, Tasmania 30 million plus.
Nothing tells the story of economic renewal like real estate. In 2012-2013, just 2 houses were sold in Derby. But in 2015, the market took off. A house worth $120,000 pre the trails is now worth more than double. and land prices have more than tripled.
There'd been 49 property sales in 18 months, about $5 million worth of turnover. I think property prices have trebled in that time. It's a real property boom here, very hard to buy anything.
We've had mountain bikers from around the country coming to Derby and investing and starting up businesses. But at the same time, we've had a lot of Tasmanians cottoning on that there might be something here, coming, buying property, renovating a cottage into an accommodation, and that's what we really need.
The town is desperate for more beds. There are now more than 30 Airbnbs and a range of new accommodation is being developed. Keen mountain biker Ben Jones and his wife Anastasia moved from Sydney. They're building a lodge which can sleep 12.
Do you want the sink to go to the centre of that window?
Yeah, so good.
I saw the money that the government are putting into it and decided that, you know, I want to put my money in there too and back them. And I personally, at riding the trails myself, believe that, you know, Blue Derby is pretty special.
They lived in mountain biking mecca Whistler in Canada for 4 years and can see what Derby can be. Ben says Derby is like the best mountain bike and ski villages. The trails all link into the town.
You know, it's not like you have to get in your car and drive 20 minutes out of town, get your bike off the roof, ride. It's sort of like come to Derby and leave your car in the driveway and just ride for days. So, yeah.
Next door is Virginia Valentino. She'd spent part of her childhood in Derby and for sentimental reasons bought her grandmother's old home to do up as a weekender. After fixing it up, she wondered if it was a silly investment. It turned out to be an accidentally inspired one.
We'd just finished renovating it and we realised that the mountain bike trails were about to be built and there was no accommodation, so we were ready to go. And so now it's rented all the time to mountain bike riders.
Virginia is passionate about Derby and mans the local museum to remind tourists about Derby's tin mining history. And she enjoys testing tourists with a challenge to lift a small bag of tin.
Oh my goodness, look at that. Those miners were tough.
Queenslanders have got no muscles.
We would run across and play over at the old mine hole, and it was a great place to grow up.
She's delighted the vibrant town of her childhood has come back to life.
It's fun to come into town now because the people who are coming to ride these mountain bike trails are enthusiastic. They arrive in town, they're full of energy, they just can't wait to build their bikes and get out on the trails.
Not everyone is happy with the new Derby though. A few locals miss the old one.
Most of those have sold out now and moved on, and they've got big prices for their houses, which has been good for them, I presume. They was real anti at some of them, but they've got over it now, I think. They would just have to. They're here to stay.
Local farmer Derek Hayes has lived in Derby his whole life and admits to being sceptical about mountain bikes and ecotourism. But after driving a few shifts for Buck Gibson, he warmed up.
They're really good people, yeah. Interesting to talk to, they are, yeah, because they come from all over the world, you see.
And that's who local rider 15-year-old Miles Smith meets. The trails have changed his life. He has a new hobby and an after-school job with Buck Gibson.
He's got that bravado, he can talk to anyone. They instantly fall in love with him and he's a cheeky little bugger.
Do you see a job for yourself in mountain biking eventually?
Yeah, hopefully. And if that doesn't work out, probably trail building or something like that, just something to keep me in the mountain biking industry.
The trails have had a positive impact on local teens.
They're being told by a lot of our visitors, they're saying, you are so lucky to live here. And it's something that their parents never ever heard, never. And these kids are hearing it and you can just see the pride that they've got in their town. And so they want to be here, they want to live here, they want to work here and they want to be a part of the action.
Several locals are now apprentices on the track maintenance team. Derby wants a reputation for the best maintained trails in the world.
And that's one of our key points of difference. So the trails are immaculately groomed 365 days of the year. I suspect you'd only find that in a handful of mountain bike destinations around the world.
Queenslander Peter Colburn helped build the trails. When they were finished, he decided to stay and now heads up the maintenance crew.
And that trail's spread over a good 50, 60 kilometre diameter, so it's a long way to go end to end. So access is a big deal for us. We spend a lot of time on foot walking to access trails. Every now and then you'll see a skid and a scuff, and then you sort of can post-mortem the body scuffing on the ground and walk back and look at how it's happened. It affords us a few giggles.
Derby Stage 2 is a new trail around the old mine hole. It's a gentle ride for beginners and young children. Sand left over from the mine will be used to make a beach, and the mine hole will be stocked with trout.
We're expecting to get avid mountain bikers, which is happening, coming down here, but all of a sudden, boom, there's people going, I want to give this thing a go. So that's why we're getting in these bikes that are really easy to ride, and these beginner trails. We think it's the next big thing for Derby.
The economic impact of the trails has not escaped rural councils on the mainland, which regularly ask the Dorset Council for advice on how they can recreate some Derby magic of their own.
A lot of councils are seeing it as an opportunity. There's quite a few examples in Australia and definitely lots worldwide where people are investing money in trail construction, and it's leading to prosperity for the town and for the whole region.
What we're actually seeing, and I didn't envisage this when we started the project, is we're getting young families moving into the area. Now, what regional town in Australia wouldn't want that happening in their patch?
Mountain bike dollars are already spreading south with the recent opening of trails at sleepy Medina in the southwest. When the extension of the Blue Derby Trail down to the seaside town of St Helens is complete, those dollars will spread to the east coast as well.
We'll have nearly 200 kilometres of trail in this northeast corner of Tasmania. So it will be the mountain bike mecca of Australia. And on that scale, we compete with any destination in the world. Derby is fast becoming one of the tourism icons in Tasmania, there's no doubt about it.
I had an inkling that mountain biking was right for Tassie. Mountain bikers have got energy and enthusiasm, and they bring an energy to a town, and that was what I was hoping would happen, and it has happened.